Hello and welcome. It's me, Marls44, and welcome to this Vanguard Zero deck and fight of PBO, Phantom Blaster Overlord. If you don't know what that means, if you're not educated in Vanguard. But yeah, so about all those pulls I did, I think it was almost like 250 pulls. I did drop the $100 just because I was like, you know what, I really want the end. I think dropping 100 this one time is okay. Maybe in the future I might do it again, might not. I probably would drop less, but I was just like, you know what, also PBO would be great, and I ended up completing the deck. Completely. I got everything from pulls, except for one Masquerade. I crafted it because everything else was complete. So, yeah. But looking into the deck, this is the deck list. This is the most optimal deck list. Of course, there are some alternatives I'll look at with you guys because I like to do that. I like to look at like some of the alternatives for, you know, players who won't be able to pull all these triple Rs or craft all these triple Rs right away, and they can kind of work something out. A budget deck, that's what it's called. I couldn't remember the name. I'm like wiping my mat where my keyboard is. I don't know why. I just tend to do that sometimes. Ignore me. Anyway, so yes, this is the most optimal build though. So we have your for PBD, your Phantom Blaster Dragon. What he does is if your soul has a Blaster Dark, it's an 11k base. And its other skills: Counterblast 2 and retire 3 rearguards to retire one of your opponent's rearguards. And this unit gets plus 10k and plus 1 crit until end of turn. It got a buff in this game because it was Counterblast 3 in OG Vanguard, and it's a situational thing. If you have a lot of like Babcars and Nemains where you can easily just get a bunch of draws back, and you have optimal cards, mostly Babcars honestly is what you want to look for, because I usually look to kill Babcar, and your starter, Fullbau, I think it is. I forgot his name already, wow. And then one other card, preferably a grade 1 or a grade 3. Well, you should be using a grade 1 or a grade 3 for that. If you're using a grade 2, you're doing something wrong with this skill. And then you can kill either your opponent's front row or your opponent's back row, depending. I generally swing at the opponent's back row with that, but it's nice to kill their front row sometimes too, because then you can get one attack, and then you can have this card swing with the extra crit, either making them drop a PG or just damaging them really, really hard. So they could take a ton of damage that turn, and you can also apply a lot of pressure that turn with all that. But of course it depends. You want a Babcar for sure. And obviously, you rode this, so you get a Fullbau, and you usually use those two, always. And Babcar helps replenish your field afterwards as well. If you already have a card called out and you didn't use the skill, so like if you have another PBD out on the field, or someone else, some other grade 3, you can just kill him off and then call Babcar and help replenish your field with that. So you have a lot of cards to help replenish your field when using this as well. And that's kind of what you want to look for. You're not always going to use this skill. It's very, very situational. So it all depends on your situation. And then we got your PBO, your big bad boy, your cross ride. So if PBD's in the soul, it's a 13k base. And what it does is when this unit attacks, you Persona Blast, so you drop a card, this exact card, like another copy, and it gets 10 plus 10k and plus 1 crit until end of turn. So that's pretty good. It's also a little situational. You can use it a lot of the time, most of the time, but if your hand's kind of low and you need rear guards, it's not worth using it, especially if they're at like higher damage, because you're not going to hit. Yeah, you'll force out a P guard, but now you'll get less attacks. So it's kind of rough with that. But its other skill, which I use all this time and is very, very good, especially even for ending games, is Counterblast 2 and retire a rear guard to retire one of your opponent's rear guards. So this is another reason you need stuff like Badhabh and such, is because you can put a rear guard into the soul by counterblasting 2 and retire an opponent's rear guard. So say your opponent has like 2 grade 2s and they have it at PG in hand, you use this skill, kill one of the grade 2s, hit their other rear guard, and then swing with your Vanguard and they perfect guard it, but then you swing with your other rear guard, you hit, and you most likely win with that. So you can end games with this very easily. So I usually save the... I usually use... because what I usually do is, like, I'll have PBD. I don't usually use PBD's effect, because it's situational. And I'll use PBO's effect once to, like, kill a back row, and try to hinder them a bit, especially because you're 13k base, so they need their back rows to be able to hit you at least once, maybe twice. So I'll use it to kill a back row. Of course, if I get more heals, I can use it again. But I will generally save it for... I would generally save 2 counterblasts all the time to kill a grade 2 rear guard to try to end the game. So it's pretty big with that. And then we have 4 Badhabh. So when he's placed, you call the top card of your deck. Just helps replenish all that and helps you be able to also use like PBD skill pretty well. And even PBO, I usually use PBO skill with like Badhabh. Or like, depending, like if you call a PG, you get unlucky like that. I usually use it with that too. So we have 4 of him, so excellent rear guard, an excellent card just to help support the deck. You need 4 of him. And then we have the Dark Dictator as well, just here because there's really no other options. And you can use the Soul Blast on like the final turn where you know you're going to end it if you need it, but I never use it. I never use this card. This usually is just death fodder as well. I forgot to mute Discord. Let me do that quickly. But yeah, I usually do that as well, because that just works the best. And then next up, we have 2 Blaster Darks. So this seemed weird to me at first, but the 2 Blaster Darks actually makes a lot of sense because you don't... He's not a good rear guard. He's not good for anything really other than being part of your ride chain. So he's 10k on Vanguard if Blaster Javelin's in the soul. And also, if he's in the soul, then PBD is 11k. So that's the only reason you really run him. You don't really need him other than that. So you just run 2, you know, in case you accidentally damage check one of them. So you run 2 because of that. And then you have for your Skull Witch Nemain. One place, you know, you counterblast 1, discard a card from your hand and draw 2 cards. And she got a buff because instead of being 3k, she's 5k. This card's really good for just getting more cards, getting your PGs to hand, replenishing your hand, just filling up your hand, getting lots of units. It's just really, really good. You need 4 of her. We have 3 Cursed Lancer. When it hits a Vanguard, you countercharge 1. You might be considering running... You might consider, hey, wait, maybe I should run 4 without this counterblasting, but you really don't need to. Nemain's a 1 use usually, or 2, 1 or 2, depending on how the match goes. And then PBD, you know, you use him a couple times, and you don't, not PBD, PBO you use a couple times, you don't really use PBD most of the time. So you usually unflip like maybe 1 or 2 damage, and it helps, but then that's it. And you just make sure he hits the Vanguard. That's it. So because you're running 9 draw, he can hit the Vanguard. And then you got 4 Masquerade, 12k beaters, which is nice, especially because like with Blaster Javelin, even if you have to call him out to rear guard, 18k. helps against the cross rides. Then we have 4 PGs, of course, your Maclear, 4 Blaster Javelin, start your ride chain grade 1, and also, you know, if he's placed, you can drop a card to add a PBD to your hand. So if you don't have, like, if you have a grade 3 but it's not PBD and it's not PBO, if you have PBO in hand, don't drop PBO. But if you don't have either of them and you have the Dark Dictator or Babcar, I usually try to aim to drop the Dark Dictator because Babcar is helpful. But if you have to, you drop Babcar and get PBD to hand if you have neither and you're on, you know, your grade 2 turn. We have 3 Black Sage Charon. We run 3 of her. She's really helpful for the columns, of course, because of cross rides. And that includes, like, MLB as well. Slap it behind it. A 9k is 17, MLB is 12, so they need a trigger for it not to hit. And she's also really good because when you're fighting 11k Vanguards or your opponent doesn't cross ride, PBO with the cross ride will swing for 21, which is a magic number for that. So that's really, really strong as well. And then we have 2 Dream Painter, Nightmare Painter. I keep doing that. And what it does when placed, you may put a card from your hands into the soul. So I love this card. This card helps me out so much. When you ride PBO and you get PBD to hand, you slap down a Dream Painter, put PBD to soul, it's your 13k base. That 13k base is huge. Most of the time, I ride PBO first and use Nightmare Painter to put PBD into the soul because the cross ride is just so good that it limits what your opponent can do to your Vanguard. Because they have to make those 18k columns or higher to make sure they hit. But it's really hard for your opponent to do that. So it's just so good, and it helps keep the deck very consistent too. So both of that. And then you have, you know, 4 heal, 9 draw, your Babcar, your heal, and then everybody else is draw. So that. But before we jump into the fight, I wanted to look over the, you know, the budget type deck. So, Blaster Dark, you can't really, there's no way to run someone else. If you don't have a Nemain, you can run Moonlight Witch Vaha. She's a counterblast 2 on hit to draw a card. You can hit rear guards too. It's good. It's not as good as Nemain, because Nemain's a counterblast 1, drop 1 to draw 2. So you could drop a grade 3 that you don't need, or a grade 1 that you don't need, and then get 2. And that's really, really good and really strong, and it helps so much. It makes it so consistent. But this card's a good backup, because Nemain's a triple R, you need 4 of her. So this card is a good backup when you don't have her. You can also run more Cursed Lancer as well. I do not recommend running Maka. The draws are more important. You might think Maka's good, but the draws are more important to get to your PGs and your intercepts. Calling a grade 1's okay, but you need your PGs and intercepts to live. So that's why Vaha is just better. Same amount of counterblasts. So, and plus, she's just on hit. Actually, no, that doesn't make a difference, because, right, intercept, so she will die next turn. But that's, I forgot about that. Another thing you can do is, if you don't have Masquerade, just run the 10k. You don't really have a backup option for Cursed Lancer or Blaster Dark. You need those two, especially Cursed Lancer, but you do need both of them, big time. The nice thing is you only need 2 Blaster Darks, and they already gave you one a while back, so that's at least nice. You just pull one, and then you just need Cursed Lancer. Those unflips are big. But yeah, instead of Masquerade, you could just run the 10k. That is pretty solid. I don't think there's an 11... Yeah, there's no 11k feature. But yeah, you could run the 10k. Who did I have in mind? With the grade 3s, there really is no backup as well. It's mainly just the grade 2s. The grade 3s, you need to get them. It's a very expensive deck. It's a very expensive deck. But you have some ways to try to work around it with, you know, Vaha at least, even though she's still a double R. Nemain's a triple R, so... and depending on how much you pulled as well. And, you know, Rugos will just be your Masquerade replacement for now as well. And you can just run 4 Cursed Lancers if you have 4 anyways, and you don't have all the Nemains or all the Masquerades as well, just to help you with a little more unflip. But I don't think it's entirely necessary. I think the 10Ks are a little better. They help a little more, and they help hit cross-rides more, but you can if you want to. But that's it. There's only a few cards for the budget deck, unfortunately. It's a very expensive deck. Like, you PGs, yes, you can get them with the V medals, so I kind of count them, but I don't count them. So not counting the PGs, you have 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Excuse me. You have 9 double Rs, and then you have 4, 4, 4, and then 12 triple Rs. You have 21 cards. Basically more than half of the deck by 1 card. That is double R or triple R, and more triple R's than double R's. So it's a very expensive deck. And of course, I forgot to mention this, but Fullbau is your starter. I hope you know that. Ride Chain. Calls to rear guard when you ride PBD. That's the only plus of riding PBD, usually. Anyways, let's jump into the fight. I hit fight, didn't I? I swear I did. Okay. Need a drink. I'm sorry, guys. I'm talking a lot. Get thirsty. You can't do much about it. Oh, man. I've been using this deck so much, though. I was struggling a lot at first. But once I kind of learned how to use it, I feel very comfortable with it. Sex. But I haven't really been grinding this season, and I need 2 more PRs, so the thing ends in like 2 days, and I'm basically going to have to grind really hard. So we're going to put these back. Charon's debatable on putting back, but I have 0 PGs, and I feel more comfortable if I put her back. That really sucks, though. Oh, goodness gracious. Oh. Okay, so, looking at this hand... Yeah, I don't even know what to make of this hand. It's a little awkward. I could probably... Okay, that makes me feel a little better. I have targets, at least, for PBO skill now. What you want to do as well with this deck is you don't really want to commit too much early. And in general, you really want to not commit too much, because later on you need things like your grade 2s to survive when you're at 4 or 5 damage. You need them to survive and live, or else it's a problem. Oh boy. That's always an interesting card. Has its downside on grade 2, but then you go to grade 3. I don't think he's as good in this version. I mean, like, yeah, he gets plus 5k in a crit and you can't dodge, you can't avoid it, but like, I'm not gonna call anything else out, which means he'd only really be able to hit me with like 1 other column first, and then hit me with that, and it could still be okay. That's nice. PG to drop zone. Always pay attention to what your opponent drive checks as well. I can't tell you how many times I've won because I knew that he didn't have another PG in hand. Oh, my mom's calling. Goodness gracious. Ignore that. Oh no. I'm sorry, Mom. Forgive me, please. I'm in the middle of recording. And I also can't leave this because I don't want to disconnect. That's pretty funny for the video. Oh goodness. Okay. I'm surprised he didn't get the Bari earlier, but yeah, pay attention to your opponent's drive checks. Because yeah, that's all he can do. So he swings with that, and then he's gonna have to swing with his Vanguard. Unfortunately for him, yeah, if I get a draw trigger, your deck's a lot smaller, even though you only have 13 triggers in this game. You have a 40 card deck, so that's 10 less cards than the actual game has. It's a lot easier to hit triggers. So that's something as well. Oh, I hate that. I'm about to drop whatever card I draw now. That's the only downside is you get something like that. Yeah, okay, it's just a grade 1. That's not too bad, but okay. What do we want to do? Do we want to cross ride? I can't even cross ride. Okay, I think I get the Fullbau for that card I lost in the drop zone there. I also have Badhabh, so I could just get really, really crazy with it. I don't have Nemain, so I'm gonna call Badhabh. Speaking of the devil, we're gonna use her skill. Drop PBD. Draw 2. I will call a Blaster Javelin. Don't use his skill. We're gonna use PBD's skill. 1, 2, 3. We're gonna kill Bar. I think Bar is important. Nahalem behind it, Burning Horn behind it. It gets pretty strong. Okay, what else do I want to do? I don't want to commit to too much looking at my hand, though. So I will call the Blaster Javelin, because that's all I have right now. Which means Masquerade should go in that column. If I'm really trying, well, if he has a cross ride. Ooh, and to get a heal trigger, yes! Perfect. So now, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Oh, okay. That sucks. That sucks. Yeah, I deserve that. Wow, okay. But that's also good that I dealt him 2 damage, because he still took a damage, but that sucks that he fully healed there still nonetheless. There's the cross red. Oh, what I was saying about the drive checks. I can't tell you how many times I've won, because I pay attention to the drive checks. A Barre goes to the bottom of their deck on like their 2nd or 3rd turn or something, and they never hit it, and I win because I know they don't have another PG in hand, even though they're holding more cards in hand. So like, you know, you debate sometimes, oh, do I swing at the rear guard to minimize their pressure? No. 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 I think it's a little odd that he did that. It works, though. If he has at the end in hand, he can use it. Restand, his Vanguard can hit mine, and then Tejas can hit my back row, so that's pretty good. For a second there, it looked weird to me, because I'm like, how's Tejas gonna hit me? But no, that makes sense. He Persona Blast, Counter Blast, draw 2. I love the end in this version. I wish. Yeah, right. What I was saying about those pulls. 250 pulls, almost 250 pulls. Not one. The end. Not one. I don't understand. The end just doesn't want to come to me. I even got a Coco. I crafted a Coco too, and it was SP Coco that I got. Oh, so happy about that though. I love Coco, as you can see from the border. All right, cross ride time. Okay, so we're gonna cross ride. I still kind of don't want to commit to too much from looks of what he has, and I don't have a lot of draws either. So it becomes risky to commit to way too much there. So what we're just gonna do is we're gonna have Masquerade swing, and then we're gonna have PBO swing. I'm not gonna use it this time. There's another reason you can use PBO skill. That's awesome. PG to hand. Oh yes, and he lost another one. Let's go! Oh yes. His lock does sack. But another reason you save PBO in hand as well, if you don't call it, and if you don't use the Persona Blast for the crit, you use it for the power. So you can have rearguard swing, hit their Vanguard, damage them, and then use the PBO drop to hit them or make sure you hit them. So it can kind of get crazy with that. That's a little odd, but Okay, maybe he can resand. So that would make sense if he did that. Oh my god, where are his triggers? How many triggers has he used? Make sure to always check the triggers as well down here. It's very important and it helps. You can see he lost 2 PGs, he lost a heal already. He lost 5 draws. I'm kind of low on triggers myself, actually. But that's okay. We don't really have anything to use with Nemain. Oh, he's calling out both because... Ooh, wait, what does he have in hand? Interesting. So he called out both. And it kind of looks like he doesn't really have much in hand. I could call something, counterblast, and kill something. Yeah, I think I will. I don't have any... Never mind. Scratch that. Never mind, I don't really have anything to hit with. We're gonna call Charon here, and Nemain. We're not gonna use her skill. Yeah, no, I had to call Nemain either way. You don't have to swing, because you don't run crits and stuff, you don't have to swing at the Vanguard with your Vanguard, but in this situation, it really didn't matter which one I did. See, if I had that earlier, I would have dropped the Dream Painter to draw 2 cards, because I'm gonna take a damage eventually. Yes, that was the face of, really, you just did that to me? I mean, fair enough. He got 2 PGs to damage, so. Ah, Mom, I'm sorry. Hold on, please. Just wait a little longer, please. I'm almost there. Oh no. Okay, he's calling stuff now. I know. Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna turn cam off for a second. Keep going. Hold on. Okay, I apologize for that. I know that it's a little... That really sucks that it happens, especially because, like, it's been, you know, half an hour and the fight's almost over. Okay, Blockade is really good in this situation. I actually might lose this. Okay, so what I was thinking there was I was tempted on killing... Oh, you know, I think I screwed up. Yeah, I did mess up. I was tempted on... Oh no, I didn't, actually. I was tempted on killing Bellicosity with PBO skill. The thing is, that wouldn't have net me that much, unfortunately. So, I only have 2 PGs in hand. I do have a heal trigger. I have, you know, there have been cards that went to the bottom of the deck. He has a heal trigger too. There have been cards that went to the bottom of the deck, but I know that was really unfortunate. My mom called. She kept calling, so I didn't need that to keep happening, obviously. I'm a little confused why he rode Blockade, though, when he used Overlord's skill to swing at everything. That's odd. I wouldn't recommend doing that, because, like, if you're gonna ride Blockade, don't swing at everything. I mean, it's good to do it. Yeah, I kind of had a feeling. I had a big feeling. With everything that was at the bottom of my deck, I had a big feeling that I was going to top deck a heal. And he surrendered, yeah. Yeah, it was over. No PGs, no heals in deck now. He lost all 4 of his PGs because he called one of them, but it doesn't matter. I just swing at him. I don't know. That was kind of weird. It was optimal a bit, but it wasn't. I mean, I guess it really didn't matter in the long run if he had to end at that turn. If he didn't, it was over. The game's over. But yeah, I'm sorry about that. My mom kept calling. I figured, turn off the cam for a second, answer the call, mute my mic, keep playing, and then I'll explain that turn. So on that turn, I didn't really have that much. My problem with killing... I was going to kill Bellicosity, and I could have called something like a Mac Lear behind my Vanguard, behind Blaster Dark, but I didn't want to risk that. So, what I was going for there was trying to see if I could use PBO skill, but I couldn't. I could, but I couldn't really get all 3 swings at his Vanguard, because he's going to do a damage check. Now, thinking back at it, what I could have done, and maybe what I should have done, is called the Nightmare Painter, Counterblast 2, put Nightmare Painter into Soul, kill the Waterfall, because that would have limited his attacks the next turn. Looking at my triggers, I kind of knew that I was going to pull something and like how the deck size was. I had 2 draws and a heal left in deck, and it's been a few turns, and a few cards have cycled, a few normal units has cycled to the bottom, so I was pretty much pulling a trigger there, which was why I was pretty sure that I was going to pull a heal when he hit my Vanguard there. When I looked at my trigger lineup and what was there, I was either going to pull a heal there, or I was going to pull a draw. And I pulled the draw, and then the heal was next turn. And luckily I didn't draw into the heal, putting the heal on top of my deck. So I got lucky with that. Always pay attention for your triggers for that reason, because, of course, if I even pulled a heal there on my drive check, instead of there, my opponent loses. My 2 PGs drop, because he makes that play for a final push, because he has to still. He still only has 1 PG in hand, and then he pulls the heal, of course, but that's it. So he has to try to end it. I have 2 Mac Lears blocking 2 of his attacks, and I take 1 damage, giving me 5. That's if I pulled the heal on my drive check. So I kind of figured either way I was in a really good position. Even though I only had, 2 PGs, I was in a really good position. And that's what you have to pay attention for, is your opponent losing PGs and just all that kind of stuff. Just pay attention to how the game goes with that. Pay attention to your trigger lineups and PGs. And same with your opponents. It's very important, and can help you win. Of course, it's luck-based with that, because it's all about chance, but it's still important to pay attention to that, because right there I kind of figured, okay, that heals... I'm like 99% sure that heal's at the top of my deck now. So I'm 99% sure I just won the game. And if I drive checked it, if I drew that heal, that would have ended the game right there. But it's hard to tell sometimes because you don't know what your opponent has in hand. So even if I did kill Waterfall though, he did have Blockade. He didn't need to ride Blockade. He could have still called Blockade, done what he did with Overlord, and that's if I killed Waterfall, and still would have hit me. So that's kind of unfortunate, but it is important to pay attention to your triggers. That match could have gone either way at the end there with that, depending on what I did and what he did. Because I didn't know he had a Blockade in hand. He rolled the Blockade, but if Waterfall was dead, he probably would have called it and called the Bari behind it. So, yeah, I only got 2 PGs in hand, and so did he, and that was a pretty close game, but I think I did a pretty good job at showing how you use PBO. As I said, don't use PBD's skill all the time. Very situational. And if you have Nightmare Painter, most of the time you want to get PBO Cross Ride out just right away. The only situation that I can kind of think of is maybe if your opponent put a lot more damage on you. Like, I'm talking like, you have 4 damage, they have 1, because they pull like heals and stuff. You can use PBD's skill to try to catch up a bit. But if you have another PBO in hand, you don't need to. You just get the PBO Cross Ride and then kind of Persona Blast to get that 2 damage. So, anyways, that was the fight. Sorry for all that talking. I just want to try to explain how to use this deck in a way, because this game's very different from OG Vanguard in the way you kind of have to play. Like, it's similar because you do need to play slow early on. Your opponent will punish you for calling too much out and being too risky. But it is a lot more luck-based than OG Vanguard as well, because you can't guard. So just trying to play more optimally and with what you have is very important, and that's why I wanted to explain all this. And I was really shit at this deck for a while because I didn't understand what I was doing. My cousin helped me out because he saw the different fight video, and I kind of went to watch it myself, and I have a good grasp on this deck now. I'm sure I could improve with it, but I feel like I have generally a very good grasp on this deck. Like 95% good grasp on the deck kind of thing. So yeah, that has been the deck and fight, though. I hope you all enjoyed it, and the explanation and just everything about it. This is also my first deck and fight, so I thought I'd kind of go in a little more detail with stuff, but I'm going to try to do that in general. So thank you all for joining me. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you guys next time.